I'm Allison Byers and founder and CEO of Scroobious. Maybe I'll start with my experience right before Scroobious, and then we can go backward. But right before founding the company that I'm doing now, which was in January of last year, so we're very much a startup as well, and it was 2 months before COVID, which was an interesting time to start a company. I co-ran a startup medical device company for nearly 5 years. And when I was there, I was the one primarily responsible for fundraising among all the other, duties assigned to a co-president and director. And we did raise almost $10 million, which sounds really great. And it was great, but in med device, it's drop in the bucket when you're running human clinical trials and have to go through regulatory processes and all those things. But for me, the firsthand experience of being a woman fundraising was incredibly eye-opening. And it really stuck with me just how inefficient fundraising is in general for anybody, for both founders and investors. And then as a woman, all the systemic barriers and blockers that exist that more traditional fundraisers or funders don't see because they don't have that firsthand experience where it's clear as day to others. And I am fairly well networked, and I, have gone to business school, and I've been in startups my whole career. And even I felt just how blocked I was from a lot of things, and I couldn't get past that feeling. And then thinking about others who also are underrepresented and don't have the benefit of my background or my network, and how incredibly difficult it is for anybody. And then when I did a bunch of research into it, and you see the statistics about women and minorities and who gets funding dollars, I mean, they seem like they're made up. They're so ridiculously low. And that is not to the fault of the founders. That means that there is huge systemic problems and huge untapped potential that isn't getting funded. And investors are missing out as well. And so there's a whole lot that needs to happen to fix that. I am not the end all be all solution, but I saw a place where there was a real market need on both sides. And I think I have a really good idea of how to do it. And so that's why I decided to start Scroobious when that med device company was ultimately acquired. So what we're doing at Scroobious, ultimately, the vision for the company is to be a platform that is the go-to place for any early stage founder, particularly those that don't pattern match or are underrepresented, to go to learn about how you put together your business plan, how you pitch a compelling, simple message, and create these videos for more effective fundraising. And for investors who are looking to source founders that they don't already know, that are not in their network, and that they feel some connection with and really fit into their thesis and where they want to put their investing dollars. And as well for partners in the ecosystem, so service providers and vendors, alternate sources of capital, who are also looking for this world of founders that, there is no pipeline problem, in my opinion, but there is a connection problem. And there are no good central resources right now for these people to know that the other exists. And then the data that we're going to have on private markets is what I'm most excited about. So bringing transparency to diversity in early stage investing, and using data in a way that can really create behavior change and enable some systemic changes. So that's Scroobious. For me, I've been in startups my entire career. So, and I've always focused on startups that use data to understand and influence human behavior. And I think that's the insight that I brought to my experience at my last company, was the ability to look at it from the outside and use my previous experiences to see the opportunity that has not been capitalized on yet in the actual process of fundraising.
Do you want to share a little bit about where you're at today, and just training founders to come up with a pitch that can be hosted on the platform right now?
Yeah, and so that's exactly right. Where we're starting out, I mean, you're founders that you work with are all probably in similar stages to where I am with, big visions, but you start somewhere. And I think it's really important to have that focus that you're going to go to market with and how you're going to first approach it, because you can't just do everything all at once, and you have to have that strategy to build up to. So for us, we are focusing right now on the founders, and we have a program called the Pitch It Plan, or we call it the PIP. And this is where I saw, there's not only a need for these platforms that help founders and investors discover each other, but for founders, particularly those who are underrepresented, most tend to have domain expertise, but not necessarily business expertise. And just by nature of the number of us, they also don't have that network of founder peers or mentors to help explain to them what are investors looking when you go there. So there's an education piece that I think has been missing for a lot of founders in terms of what are those building blocks of your business plan, and how do you communicate them in a way that is familiar to investors and simple and compelling. So PIP is a platform with a bunch of online learning modules, little like 1 to 5 minute videos and narrated PowerPoints, and we're also have some templates, and we're creating more to really help founders efficiently and simply understand those elements. So things like, how do you calculate a bottom-up market size, right? We have a workbook you can download with a framework that really simplifies that and makes it approachable. So founders can go through PIP, and they get this online access to all these learnings and templates, and it's meant to be asynchronous, so it works on somebody's own schedule. And then there are touch points of personalized feedback as well, and a community of other founders. So we really try and round out that experience for founders and let them enter this world of learning what a business pitch is, learning how to tell your story in a way that anybody can understand it, and connecting with peers, which is so important for peer-to-peer learning. And then at the end of that program, so you're going to have your pitch deck that you feel really good about. You're going to have worked on your presentation so that you know how to pitch, you feel comfortable doing it. And we help then film a pitch video, which is a really good medium for a first impression. So in fundraising, this is one of the inefficiencies that really struck me, is the first step in fundraising is send me your pitch deck, right? Which is like dreaded, like no one likes pitch decks. Founders don't like making them. There's no standardization, but most importantly, you can't put yourself in a pitch deck. You cannot communicate the characteristics of who you are and your passion. And in early stage investing and pre-seed and seed stage investing, that is as important, if not more, there's research on this, than the actual business or technology itself. So you're starting off not communicating something that is critically important to a funding decision. And that's what investors are using to decide if you are worth a first meeting with them. So video is the right medium. And we pair the founder next to their slides in this video, presenting their slides to capture an authentic pitch, to let you communicate your passion, your characteristics, all the visual information and auditory information that humans and investors need to better process and better retain information about your company. And it makes you a person instead of just a file at first impression. So founders who go through the program, they get their deck, they are comfortable with their pitch, they've got a new community, and they have a link to this video that they can send out in their own fundraising efforts. And we're currently building out our investor-facing side of the platform, where they'll also be shown to relevant investors or sources of capital.
Cool.
We have 140 founders now who are somewhere between having completed or just started on the platform, which is amazing.